Coco Gauff is back, and this time, she didn't just win a tournament. She sent a message to the entire women's tennis world. Just days before the U.S. Open, Gauff stormed through Cincinnati, defeated fellow American Jessica Pegula 6-2, 6-4, and lifted the trophy in dominant fashion. But here's the part that should make every U.S. Open contender nervous. This wasn't simply another title. Coco looked sharper, more aggressive, more composed. And perhaps most importantly, she looked like a player who has rediscovered her confidence at exactly the right moment. And remember what happened the last time Gauff won Cincinnati? She went on to win the U.S. Open. So could history be about to repeat itself? Stay with us, because we're breaking down exactly why Coco Gauff's Cincinnati triumph could be the biggest warning sign of the 2026 U.S. Open. Trophy Coco Gauff is a Cincinnati champion again. Coco Gauff has done it again in Cincinnati. In the final, she faced fellow American Jessica Pegula in a historic All-American showdown. And from the opening games, Gauff looked ready. She immediately put Pegula under pressure, attacking early and forcing her opponent to defend. The result? A convincing 6-2, 6-4 victory. Gauff didn't need a three-set battle. She didn't need a dramatic comeback. She simply took control. And that is exactly what makes this victory so important heading into New York. This was Gauff's second Cincinnati title, following her breakthrough triumph at the tournament in 2023. And that brings us to one of the most fascinating storylines in women's tennis. Because after winning Cincinnati in 2023, Gauff went to New York and captured her first Grand Slam title at the U.S. Open. Now, 3 years later, she's once again a Cincinnati champion. Coincidence? Maybe. But tennis fans are certainly going to notice the similarity. Police car light, this is a different Coco Gauff. The biggest story isn't simply that Coco won. It's how she won. Throughout Cincinnati, Gauff showed a level of consistency and control that had been missing at important moments earlier in the season. Her run included victories over Ludmila Samsonova and Marie Buzkova, Marta Kostyuk, Sarah Bijlek, and finally Jessica Pegula. And after that opening round battle against Samsonova, Gauff went on an incredible run. She won the final 5 matches of the tournament without dropping another set. That is exactly the kind of momentum a player wants before a Grand Slam. Gauff wasn't just surviving matches. She was solving problems. She was controlling rallies. And when opponents tried to push back, she responded. That mental strength could become one of her biggest weapons in New York. Tennis the serve story is huge. There is another reason this Cincinnati victory matters so much. The serve. Gauff has openly acknowledged that her serve became a major issue during the previous U.S. Open. But heading into the 2026 U.S. Open, she has worked extensively on changing and improving that part of her game. And the difference is becoming noticeable. A more reliable serve can completely change Gauff's matches. Why? Because when Coco gets free points from her first serve, she doesn't have to constantly fight from defensive positions. She can start rallies on her terms. And once the rally begins, her speed, athleticism, and powerful ground strokes become incredibly difficult to handle. That's the combination that makes Gauff dangerous. A stronger serve plus aggressive baseline tennis could give her a completely different level of confidence at the U.S. Open. Fire Cincinnati may have given her exactly what she needed. Before Cincinnati, there were questions. Could Coco find her best form again? Could she win a major title in 2026? Could she handle pressure against the very best players? Cincinnati provided some answers. This was Gauff's first WTA title of the 2026 season and her first title since Wuhan last year. That matters. Winning changes a player's mindset. Suddenly, the doubts become quieter. The pressure becomes easier to manage. And the player remembers something incredibly important. I know how to win. That confidence can be priceless when the stage becomes bigger. And the U.S. Open is about as big as it gets. Flag United States, the home crowd could be a massive factor. There is another advantage Coco will have in New York. The American crowd. Gauff has already established herself as one of the biggest stars in American tennis. When she walks onto the court at Flushing Meadows, she won't simply be another player. She'll be one of the tournament's biggest attractions. And that support can create incredible energy. Of course, it also creates pressure. But Gauff has already experienced that pressure. She knows what it feels like to enter the U.S. Open with millions of people watching. And she knows what it feels like to lift the trophy. That experience cannot be taught. She already has it. Crossed towards the U.S. Open field will be brutal. But let's not get carried away. Winning Cincinnati does not guarantee a U.S. Open championship. The women's field remains incredibly competitive. Aryna Sabalenka remains a major threat. Iga Swiatek is always dangerous. Elena Rybakina can dominate on hard courts. Jessica Pegula just showed that she can defeat top opposition. And there are always players capable of producing a surprise run at a Grand Slam. So Coco will still have to earn every single victory. Collision final warning to the U.S. Open field. So if you're Aryna Sabalenka, if you're Iga Swiatek, if you're Elena Rybakina, if you're Jessica Pegula, or if you're any player standing across the net from Coco Gauff in New York, you better be ready. Because the Coco Gauff arriving at the U.S. Open is not the same player who walked into Cincinnati with questions surrounding her form. This Coco has momentum. This Coco has belief. And this Coco has already proven that she can handle the biggest stage in tennis. Cincinnati may have been the warm-up, but New York is where the real battle begins. So what do you think? Is Coco Gauff genuinely one of the biggest favorites for the 2026 U.S. Open after this Cincinnati triumph? Can she become a two-time U.S. Open champion? And could we be watching another Cincinnati to New York championship story unfold? One thing is certain. Coco Gauff is back in the winner's circle. And now the entire tennis world is watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more Coco Gauff and U.S. Open updates. And tell us in the comments, can Coco Gauff win the 2026 U.S. Open? Because if Cincinnati was a warning, New York could be the explosion.